Okay, so we are going to talk about our review for tomorrow's test. So let's start with number 1. So we know how many words Pablo typed in 6 minutes, and we want to know his typing rate. So if you want to know more about this, you can look at page 40. But basically, his typing rate is going to be how many words he can type in 1 minute instead of 6 minutes. So I'm going to draw a box. So we're talking about words and minutes. And then the rate that they gave us in the problem was 258 words in 6 minutes. And again, if we want to know his rate, his typing rate, we need to get it down to 1 minute. And so we've got a relationship here of divided by 6, because 6 divided by 6 is 1. So we can do 258 divided by 6, which if you were to work that out to the side, I don't really have room to do that, but it would come out to 43. Now, these two both multiplied. These two, C and D, also have 43, but it's not 43 minutes per word. It's not going to take you that long to type one word. So that one doesn't make sense. It's 43 words per minute. Okay, question number 2. Clear Lake Honda sold 400 vehicles last year. 65% of those vehicles were SUVs. So we know how many vehicles they sold altogether. And we know the percent that were SUVs, and we want to know how many SUVs did they sell. You can find information on page 42 through 44 about these types of problems, but you're going to need to use the percent box to solve this. We want to set up a percent proportion. So we've always got our part and our whole and our percent, and percent is always out of 100. So in this problem, because we're talking about vehicles, we want the total vehicles at the bottom, and then some of those vehicles, part of them, were SUVs. So that's going to be our label for the part. And then the 400, let's see, they gave us the percent, 65%, but the 400 was the total vehicles. So that's going to go down there. Now we've got a relationship going this way because 100 times 4 is 400. So we can do 65 times 4. And if you were to work that out, you would get 260. So they sold 260 SUVs. Okay, the next problem is about Pam's cake recipe. And it says that the ratio of sugar to butter is 1 to 2. So we're looking for one of these tables to have a consistent relationship of 1 to 2. Now they all start with 1 to 2. Okay, they all have that relationship. Now 5 times 2 is 10, so that looks good. 2 times 4, or 2 times 2 is 4, so that one looks good. But right here we have times 3, so that's not going to work. And right here we have times 4, so that's not going to work. So we can get rid of B and D. Now up here, 6 times 2 is not 8, so that one did not work. But 6 times 2 is 12. So this one has a consistent relationship of your sugar number times 2 giving you your butter number. Okay, and then number 4, we want to take the 13 centimeters and we want to convert that to meters. So we can use a conversion box to do that. So you always want to start with your units. In this case, we're going from centimeters to meters. And then you want to look at your star chart and see what your star chart says about centimeters and meters. So it says that 1 meter is 100 centimeters. And then it says 13 centimeters. And then you can look for a relationship. So we have a relationship going from the 100 to the 1, and that's going to be divided by 100. 100 divided by 100 is 1, so we can do divided by 100 over on the side. And remember that when you divide a number like 13 by 100, you've got a decimal over there on the right. Moving it 1 time to the left is going to divide by 10. So moving it 2 times to the left is going to divide it by 100. And so it's going to be 0.13 or 1300ths of a meter. Okay, so that's the first side of your review. And let's go ahead and look at the back side. So question number 5 is about ratios. And oops. And ratios can be found on page 38. And I forgot, let me go back and make sure we know the page numbers for the other ones. This was page 39, and this is page 41, if you need to look back at those. Okay, so back over here. Page 38 is talking about ratios. So in the problem, they give us the ratio 5 to 8, and they want to know which of the answer choices has an equivalent ratio. And the way that you know that ratios are equivalent is by simplifying them if you can. So A and D can't even be simplified. There's nothing we can divide those by. C can be simplified. You could divide by 6. But that's going to give me 2 to 3. That's not the ratio I was looking for. So this one, 20 to 32, we can also simplify by 4. 4 goes into 25 times, and 4 goes into 38 8 times. So that matches that original ratio we were looking at. And so that would be our answer. Okay, and then number 6, again, this is percent. You can find this between page 42 and 44. We've got lots of information. So animal shelter has animals, obviously, and some of them are cats. So we know how many cats, but we want to know all the animals all together. So let's go ahead and draw a percent box. Part, whole, percent, and it's always out of 100. And so on this one, your total is going to be all your animals, all the animals that they have at the shelter. And then part of those animals, some of them are cats. They gave us the percent, and then they also told us how many cats there were. Now, on this one, there's no relationship. So remember, if you don't have a relationship, you can simplify. So you could divide 40 and 100 by 10. 10 goes into 40 4 times, and 10 goes into 100 10 times. Now that you have a 4 here, you do have a relationship. So 4 times 6 is 24. 10 times 6 is 60. So they've got a total of 60 animals at the animal shelter. Number 7, this can be found on page 40 because this is just a regular old proportion problem. So we know how much is in the bowl, and that's ounces, and we know that the rate, okay, is 3 ounces every 2 hours. Those are the ones that are together in the problem, and remember that that's important when you're setting up your proportion. Okay, so we're looking at ounces to hours. And again, we don't start with the 24 because it doesn't have a number with it. We start with the 2 that are together, the 3 and the 2. 3 ounces every 2 hours. Then we can fill in that 24. And on this one, we've got a relationship right here because 3 times 8 is 24. So we can do 2 times 8, which is going to give us 16 hours. And we've got one more problem. This is also on page 41 because, again, you're converting units. We're going from feet to inches. And so, again, you want to draw your conversion box. That wasn't very pretty. Let's try that again. Draw your conversion box, and we're talking about inches and feet. Again, you want to start with your star chart. So our star chart says that 1 foot is equivalent to 12 inches, and then we have 8.5 feet. So you can go either way. I'm going to go this way. 1 times 12 is 12. So we're going to do 8.5 times 12. And I'll work that over to the side. Did not leave myself very much room here, but let's see if I can make it work. Don't forget that if you have a decimal in your problem, you need a decimal in your answer. So we have 1 decimal place in the problem. We need 1 decimal place in the answer. So it would be 102 inches. I hope that was helpful and that you do well on tomorrow's test.